So most of Noctis's move list is pretty straightforward. It's a lot of 2 to 3 hit strings, and the ones that are natural combos for big damage are pretty unsafe. There's not a lot of tricks and cancels and stuff in there. There's a few, but by and large, they're pretty straightforward strings. He's got damage and range at the cost of being unsafe as a general theme, but otherwise he's pretty straightforward. He's built like most Tekken characters. He's got poking, offensive, defensive, spacing tools. There's just a couple little exceptions that make him sort of fun. So to start off with some of his punch strings, we saw 1-2-2 earlier in the punishment section, as well as 1-2-3 and 1-2-4 to blink off to the side. This 1-2-2 they can duck. It does not jail. They can duck that third hit and launch you for it. So the counterpoint to that is 1-2-1+2, which is mid. This is -9, which is kind of rare in this game. For the high option to be unsafe and the mid option to be safe is usually kind of backwards. That's the general paradigm. They can duck the high or they can punish the mid. But in this case, it's a little bit different. If you know your opponent wants to duck the 2, you can do this. That can be interrupted. If they do a 10 or 11 frame move in between the third hit, they will interrupt you for it. So if it could be back 1, it's 11 frames like King. Maybe that's 12 now, I forget. It's possible for you to get blown up for doing that, but I wouldn't worry too much about that. 1-2-2 is there, but if you're just playing like neutral game offense, you really want to throw out the 1-2 and then be done with it. Go mid or whatever. You're not going to just complete this string for the hell of it. You do that for punishment's sakes and you don't do it otherwise. You can do this to keep them honest and stay safe. It's going to take them a while to realize they can jab you out of that third hit. That's kind of risky. Because if it's 12 frames, you'll trade, and they don't want that. So 10 or 11, they can beat you, but they have to be aware of it. That's all he has out of his left jab. It's a normal 10-frame jab. It's +1 on hit. But he has the 1-2-2, the ability to blink to either side, or the ability to do 1-2 mid. That's pretty much it. His back 1-2, as we mentioned, is a 12-frame Punisher, natural combo, nice damage. It's high, so if you're throwing that out in neutral, it can get ducked pretty easily. That's not super easy to recognize. Noctis doesn't have a lot of punches, but they don't really look all that different. They're kind of just like hook-style punches. If they recognize that, they can start to duck you for it, but not a big deal. You're not going to want this too much in your neutral game. You're better off maybe just doing your 4 for the range or whatever. But back 1-2, a little bit of damage, safe on block, but can be ducked. Down forward 1-4, we mentioned in the punishment section, is not a natural combo. It is on counter hit. You'll get the knockdown, but they can duck that pretty easily. It's just like Dragunov's. They can duck it and launch you for it. It's safe if they don't. And it will wall splat, and it is a screw attack. So you're not going to use this a ton. Your down forward 1-4 is good. If your opponent is, if you know they're begging for an opportunity to poke back at you, you can let that rip. Like if you have them pinned to the wall and you're just jabbing, you're hitting them with lows and you're jabbing, you know they're getting antsy, you can let that rip and get the wall splat there. That's about all it's for. Otherwise, you just stick with this and move along. Up forward 1. Or up back 1, any direction, 7, 8, or 9. You can do all upward directions and 1. This is a 14-frame counter hit launcher. It's also a high, but it's safe. If you catch them with the counter hit, you get the combo like that. So that's a pretty nice little tool. Whoops, wrong button. It seems like he takes a little bit of a backward step, but not really. He's mostly taking a forward step overall. So its range is pretty decent, and you get a safe counter hit combo at 14 frames. It's a nice tool. Remember, this one is one of his better moves. Up forward 1 or up back 1. It doesn't really control his distance. In a lot of cases, like you can do hop kicks in all 3 directions and travel backwards. That's not the case here. Even if you do up back 1, you're still going to travel forward. The only caveat is it kind of hits them off to the side a little bit. Other than that, pretty good move. Remember that one. That's your primary fishing for counter hit move. One of your fastest ones. Down 1 is this little 2-hit mid strike. 17 frame startup. It's not super fast to be used in like counter poke, but it's -3. That's really good for a mid attack like that. You recover crouching, and I believe they do too. So it is technically their turn. If you both did your while standing 4s, they would beat you. But -3 is pretty good if you happen to block that. Down 1, this will break floors during combos. There's better ways to do it, but this is one of them. So it's an interesting little just safe mid-mid tool to have out there. Down back 1 is pretty similar. This is actually faster. This is 15 frame startup. Down back 1, 1+2 is all natural. This is what you're going to use for wall carry in some cases to get you the rest of the way. Down back 1, 1+2. It's not a huge bit of damage. It's only 24 damage, which is kind of pitiful. It'll hit them up in the air for wall carry, which is one of its best tools. But its other best use is down back 1 goes into the roll. It's the only move that I'm aware of right now that if you just hold forward, he'll go into this roll situation. That's really what it's for, even though I don't think it's all that good. The roll by itself you can do, which is forward 3+4. You can do it out in the open, just like that. He only has 2 options. Press 1 for a mid, that's -14. You do get a follow-up. I mean, that's 39 damage. That isn't bad. You can't scoff at that. But if they block the mids, -14. The other option is to press 3+4 again for a low. 17 and 20. They get 37 damage. About the same either way. So you're looking at a decent chunk of damage, no more, no less, when you get the roll mix up correctly. The problem with that is, as far as I can tell, if they block your down back 1 into the roll, they can hop kick and beat both of those options. Maybe I misjudged it when I tried it out, but I could hop kick almost every option. If you're a character that doesn't have a hop kick to beat out the low, you might be stuck making the read. So the low option seems to come out faster, and so the only way you beat them both is by outrunning the mid or low crushing the low. So if you don't have a hop kick, you might be kind of stuck in that situation. Make the read, but in either case, the mid is -14. You can punish pretty hard, and the low is -22. You can launch the crap out of that. So I don't think it's all that good a tool, especially considering there's only one way to go into it. People are going to start to recognize that dagger strike is the only way to go into the roll and hop kick you right out of it. It's like Jin here has the forward 4 into the mental alertness and the crouch dash and stuff. Once you recognize that kick from a mile away, and you know you can just beat him out of anything that he does. In Jin's case, he can cancel the stuff and stay safe. Noctis cannot. He has to either do something or finish out the roll. So as near as I can tell, down back 1 into roll is only going to get you in trouble. So maybe there's things that I haven't looked at. Maybe I didn't test it correctly. But feel free to go check it out. Set it to practice mode and see if you can beat him to the punch and however you want to do it. As I think they're timing close enough that you can't really see the low versus the mid. You have to guess. And if you can't beat them outright, then you are stuck in a guess. Noctis can get some damage off you. So moving on to Noctis's 2 strings. These are significantly better than his 1 strings. That up forward 1 is the only thing that's really noteworthy out of his left hand. You're down forward 1 for poking, and you're up forward 1 to fish for counter hits. 2 strings, on the other hand, are much different. He has this 2-2-2-2-2. None of it's natural combo. The first 2 are. I'll set it to block all afterwards. The first 2 hits are natural. It's a 15 frame startup. You can see right away he's blocking the 3rd hit. The 3rd hit is natural from that point forward. 3, 4, 5 are all a natural combo there. So if you happen to be out at range and you just start swinging with this shit, I mean, I guess you could catch them, but it's not a very practical strategy. So it's 5 total hits, mid, mid, high, high, mid. The end of it is -14, like pretty much everything Noctis has. The 2 hits in the middle will jail. 2-2-2, they can duck that. And if they do duck it, they can also duck the 4th hit, etc. But if they happen to not, that will jail them into the 4th hit and be safe. So it's kind of a little mind game about wanting to duck and exploit a high versus catching with a mid. And there are way better ways to do that than this dumb string, but that's kind of what it does. Even at the wall, you don't even get all 5 hits. The 5th hit is going to miss. And out in the open, that 5th hit is pretty punishable. The difference here is 2-2 forward 2 is mid, mid, mid. So if they know they can duck those middle 2 hits, you keep them honest with this mid, but guess how negative it is on block? 14. So you're not really getting anything by winning the mind game here. The best thing that happens is you catch him with that 3rd hit for minimal damage. The worst thing that happens is Brian jet uppers you for 95. So that's not a great string to try to play that high mid mind game with, but it's there. You can use it. The other option is also not really helping, and that's 2-2 back 2. Looks like that. It ends in the warp strike. Not a natural combo, but it goes mid and it's only -11 if you didn't want to take so much risk. but there's plenty of risk. Whereas if they see that coming, they can sidestep and destroy you as you roll towards them. This move on hit will Noctis teleports back up and finishes the attack. On block, he just kind of rolls back forward to cover the distance. So if you happen to sidestep the throw, you can destroy him while he's rolling. So again, tons of risk and very little reward out of the 2-2-2 stuff. I wouldn't worry about it too much. 2-2 forward 2 is a screw attack. You can use it there, but otherwise, and 2-2 back 2 you can end combos with. But in either case, you still have better options, either during combos or at the end. So that's it for 2-2-2s, but it's not very good. I wouldn't use it a ton unless you just do the 2 hits and stick with that. Minimal damage, and I wouldn't really mess with too many of the options. They're not all that good. The real prize out of his right hand is this forward 2. That warp strike is safe. You would think, oh, a character that can hit you mid from half a world away, that's got to be launched. It's not. It's safe. This is -9. It's kind of a bit much when you start putting it all together to have something like this. But I suppose if they happen to be moving sideways very well and that throw does happen to miss them, it can avoid them altogether. That's the downside. If it doesn't connect and when you roll forward, you get destroyed. But otherwise, even on block, when you roll, you're safe right there. There's nothing they can do. There's 2 other ways to do the warp strike. You saw 2-2 back 2, how Noctis backflips into the air and then does it, and forward 3-2 is the same. Backflips and then does the warp strike. Those warp strikes are unsafe. That's -11. If you just stand there and block this, you can hit him with 11 frame Punisher during that roll. If he does the grounded one via forward 2, he's safe. Those are the only ways to do this. There are no other warp strikes that I know of outside of like the animations of throws or whatever. So 2-2 back 2 is an airborne, and forward 3-2 is an airborne. Those are -11. Forward 2, he stays on the ground, and that's safe. So that forward 2 is a really good tool. A full screen, safe mid. You can't really argue too much with that. I think it makes a really good counterpart to down back 2, which is a low that also seems to hit you from half a world away. I mean, you get at least range 2.5 out of this low. That's a really good low. It's launch punishable if they block it, but if they're blocking just the tip out there, it's going to be harder for them to do anything to you. It would be completely dependent on their character, what they have out there. Jin, for example, his while standing 2 is pretty close to the chest. He might not be able to launch you unless you did it from like this distance. And this on counter hit can also get you combos too. We'll cover that later. So just right away, forward 2, that mid from half a world away, and this down back 2, those are really good tools to keep your opponent all the way out there. They don't want to get close to you because as soon as they start getting close, they have to just think that's coming right at them. So those are really good tools to control your space. If you want to play long range, you absolutely can with tools like that. If you want to use this forward 2 to get in close, boom, there you are. You're right in their face and you're safe. You're -9 if they block it, so you can't just keep going, but it's a good way to manage the space however you see fit. Some other stuff he has with right punch is back 2, 1+2, a weird little string that doesn't seem to accomplish anything. It's just a little gut punch that's safe by itself, but it has a just frame follow-up. It's hard to do. There it is. Back 2, 1+2 follows up with that lightning ball in the gut. That doesn't get a launcher, it doesn't wall splat. All you get is a big chunk of frame advantage to keep going. So it's hard to really like find a good use for that because this back 2 is a 15 frame startup. It's not like great for poking situations. I don't know. It's kind of hard to find a really practical use for that move. Maybe there's just some keeping your opponent on their toes elements that it's good for. Getting hit by that and the frame advantage, I don't know. It's not great at 15. You got much better tools at 13 and 14 frames to keep pressure with, like this and this, where confirming that isn't all that good. I don't know. Nothing is free that I can tell afterwards. The hit stun is at best +9. So you do have that, but it's not a miracle. Down 2-2 is a low high string, like this. Not a natural combo, but it is on counter hit. The second hit, if it counter hits by itself, will cause a screw attack, as this is going to be one of your main screw attacks in general. You'll have two that you're going to prefer. This is one of them. Down 2-2 is pretty good. You can just stop at the down 2. There's nothing wrong with that. But the down 2-2 is going to get ducked. Once they start recognizing what the stroke looks like, because all these black flashing blue swords kind of look similar for a while. Once they get used to that, they're going to start ducking it. Just like Geese and his back 4-4. Eventually, they're going to realize that's low-high, and they can duck it all day. So down 2-2 is there. You can just use the down 2 as a poke if you want. And this is going to be your primary screw attack. If you happen to think they're going to be, reckless, you can counter hit them there, but it's not a reliable strategy, but it exists. If they don't duck at all, it's -9, so you're still safe. So if you don't have an opponent that's quick with their ducks, you'll be all right here at only -9. And then the last piece of the puzzle from Noctis's right hand is that down forward 2. 15 frame, natural launcher, high crushes early, low crushes late, but is -22 on block, so you better be certain. You better punch, and sidestep, and hope you saw something that whiffs to hit it, or you have a good launch punish. It's really good for whiff punishes, I'll say that. The range that it has is very good. If you see them coming up short anywhere in your half of the screen, you can catch them with that pretty quickly. It's faster than Kazumi's version, which is 18, and it's even faster than Asuka's forward 2. Which is pretty much what those things do. Those moves own that half of the screen. So this one is maybe not quite the range they have. It's close, but it's 2-3 frames faster. This should be able to punish Paul's Death Fist, to give you an example. The Death Fist, it's -17, but huge amount of pushback. This is both. It's less than 17 frames, and it covers the distance. So Kazumi can't do that. Asuka can if it's just right. Noctis can do it like every time. So think about it that way. That's a good indicator of its range. It's able to punish Death Fists, and it's fast enough to launch anything at 15. So his punch move's pretty good. You have your generic mid poke and your 14 frame counter hit on the right hand. You have the spacing, the forward 2, and the low spacing with down back 2. And you have your down 2 is your primary screw attack. Down forward 2 is your most basic launcher. So on to Noctis's kick strings. The left side is, again, a little bit weaker than the right. We saw in the punishment section he has back 3-1. This is natural, big chunk of damage, and plenty of follow-up opportunities if they don't get up correctly. -14, so be warned. You don't want to just, throw this out in the neutral game. You're just poke, and then do this. You're going to get in trouble for it. You can't hit confirm it either. You have to just let it rip, which is fine because you get so much damage out of it. But the other twist here is just doing back 3 and holding back. Noctis will leave his back turned like this. You can also get the same thing out of back 4. You hold back and you remain back turned. So what this does is keep the opponent guessing because they were expecting the second hit to come in both cases. Both of these attacks. Back 3-1 looks like this. Back 4, 1+2 looks like this. The same kind of rhythm, the same cadence. A mid kick and a big punch afterward. So when they start expecting things like that, you do back 3 and you just cancel it. And they're like, oh, okay, well, nothing's happening. And you just hit them with a free low or anything like that. Noctis also has another launcher back turned from that. So that's what you have from your back turn. That's the only thing you want, really, is that launcher. But you keep it honest by doing back turned and not going for it every time. Go low. So oh man, they just hit me low, and now you're back on offense. Next time, maybe you go for your back 2 launcher and hit him that way. And then maybe next time you just finish the string. Because, they want to try to interrupt you when you go backwards. You just do this. You're safe, technically, but you can't block, obviously, in the back. So they want to try to come after you. So next time you just let the string rip, and you hit him with all that damage. That 69 damage is going to make him think twice. So that is an interesting little twist to be able to cancel into back turned without back turned even being a legitimate stance at all. He only has one move, but that one move is good, and it adds to the complexity of just a simple 2-hit string. Am I going to finish it? Am I not going to finish it? What do I do? You'll get a lot of mileage and a lot of damage out of keeping your opponent honest with stuff like that. So back 3-1 is a really powerful 14 frame move and also has the setup potential with the back turn cancel. Forward 3-2, on the other hand, is not as good. We went over this in the Warp Strike section. It looks like it's a natural combo, but it is not. If the opponent recognizes that nosebleed animation where they grab their face, you just hold down. They'll fall right to the ground, and the Warp Strike misses them entirely. On block, the same thing happens. They recognize this knee. All they do is they block that knee and they sidestep, and you miss them entirely and they destroy you for it. So forward 3-2, not as practical. Good for a combo ender, I suppose, but out in neutral, not very good. Even on block, if they just stand there and block the whole thing, this is one of the ones that's minus 11. Same with 2-2 back 2. The airborne warp strike, they can just punish straight up, let alone how bad they can hurt you by sidestepping it. So that's not as practical. Neither is down forward 3. This is the beginning of his 10 string. Like that. It's not very good. It's 15 frame mid kick. Your down forward 4 is a 14 frame mid kick, and it's much more practical. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. The only other left kick he has is this down back 3. A nice, quick, high crushing, low attack. It's only 15 frames, which is pretty good to be able to crush that quickly. That's surprising. Most of those lows either don't crush high as quickly or are a little bit slower to start up. That's pretty good. 15 frames, minus 13 on block, like most practical lows are. So out of his left foot, the back 3-1, big damage, or the back 3 cancel, combined with your low poke. That's pretty much all you have out of 3 button. That's most of what you're going to use. The 4 button, on the other hand, much stronger, as I mentioned. You have that 4-2, your 12 frame punish. And the unique thing about this move is if the opponent is in the air when it hits them, you get to follow up. This is what you would see in like the reveal videos where he like flies into the air and hits them. It's because of this. You see how Noctis blinks up into the air and follows them automatically. That happens all on its own, but only on an airborne opponent. If they're standing on the ground, you just get your 4-2 and you're done. So that you don't even have to hold up, you don't have to do anything. You get the automatic follow-up from this 4-2 string. You can do whatever you want to, like that. The basic combo they show you on everything is this. 2-2-2. Screw attack right away. This airborne stance isn't much of a stance necessarily. It's just like a forced jump. The only thing that's unique is that 2-2-2. You can just jump if you want to and do a jumping 1, do a jumping 3, jumping 4, etc. Even this jumping 1+2. Maybe not. Maybe that's the 2. Okay, so let's go over those. He can jump if he wants, but it's kind of dumb. It's not like Geese or Eliza or anything. So let's just look at the 2 airborne options then that are unique out of that string. You do 4-2 into the air. That's 2-2-2. You just hit 2-2-2 and you get the screw attack. It's nice as easy. Your other choice is to do 1+2, which looks like this. Whoops. Get out in the air. That's weird. Why is that not working? There you go. 1+2 will cause a floor break. If you happen to be in the temple, you can break the floor right away and save your screw attack for down the bottom. So when 4-2 takes you into the air automatically, you can do 2-2-2 for a screw attack or do 1+2 for a floor break. Other than that, you have your generic jumping options, which are not really worthy. He's not a jumping character like Geese and Eliza and Akuma. So there's not really anything interesting there other than the automatic airborne strings. And that only occurs out of 4-2. Just like I mentioned, the only way to get into the roll is down back 1. The only way to get into the air like that is through 4-2. And I guess conversely, the only things that give you that blink teleport are this 1-2-3. There's nothing else that does that. So he does have like a sideways teleport, an in the air teleport, and a roll, but each of those is only accessible via 1 move. So once the opponent recognizes that 1 move, it's not that useful. And the 4-2 thing, that just happens all on its own. But nonetheless, that's a good 12-frame Punisher. You use it in combos because you get those options and all of that. Not hit confirmable either. You kind of have to take the risk. Next best thing out of that is down forward 4-2. As we mentioned, as a 14-frame Punisher with extensions. This is natural. They can duck it if it's getting blocked. But your options, 4-2-4 is a high, and 4-2-2 is that mid, which is safe. Both options being safe is pretty good. However, in the case of down forward 4-2-2, that flip into the air can be floated. Anything that's 15 frames or less will float Noctis right out of the air. So if they have any inkling that this is what's coming, you're going to get destroyed for it. That's why you have 4-2-4 which will hit them if they try to do anything. So it's that classic paradigm. Do they want to duck or do they not? Do they want to try to poke you out or do they not? As long as you're honest with these things, you know, you throw this one out the first time and they're like, oh man, I should have ducked that. Next time you do the mid and they won't duck it, you keep them on their toes. But if they make the right read, they'll get you for it. That is a 14 frame move, so you can use it as a punish with follow-up extensions, as we mentioned before. It's 16 frames as this forward 4-2. This is natural, nice bit of damage, and it's only -11, which is pretty decent. It's not that bad. This main function is when you have a launch punish near the wall, you use it to get your wall splat instead of up in the air. Big chunk of damage just like that. It's a pretty good tool. It's got nice range. Actually got really good range, about somewhere between 1.5 and 2. And only -11 for a mid-mid natural combo. Pretty decent. You get to knock down all that stuff at the wall. Next up is back 4. And I bet you're going to say you follow up with a 2. But in this case, it's 1+2. He uses the big sword here. This is 18 frames. Also a natural combo. Big damage. And this is -13, even though there's just nobody can do anything about it. Let me set it to block and show you how the pushback works. Look how far apart they are. 13 frames is not enough to get in there. Fang might be able to do his shoulder. There's a couple things that'll reach you, but by and large, that's going to be fundamentally safe because no one can reach you in 13 frames. So keep that in mind. That's a really powerful attack. It's not super fast to start up. That back kick is a little slow at 18. But at wall splats, you use it in combos at the wall. It'll break the wall. Really good, powerful move. And if you're here, like you notice when I'm standing at the wall, there's no pushback. So I'm right in his face. He can hit me with whatever 13 he has. So that's a difference. Out in the open, fundamentally safe. At the wall, you got to bide your time. But also, as we mentioned, if you just do back 4 and hold back, you get your same back turn situation. So between the back 3-1 and the back 4 1+2, both able to cancel into that launcher, into the low, etc., keeps your opponent on your toes. And in this case, you can pretty much just let this rip with very little worry otherwise. It's then that you start to cancel into this stuff that they really get frazzled. So write that one down too. Back 4 1+2 is one of your best damaging options and relatively safe depending on your character. Down back 4 is a little low poke. Down back 3 is a little bit faster and crushes high. Down back 4 leaves you standing. So they're just poking neutral games, keeping you honest. That's all they're really for. Neither one of them gives you anything on counter hit. They're just a little poke. The real low comes from down 4, which is this. Doesn't look like anything, but this is a demolition man like Paul. It's down 4, 1, 1+2. Whole thing is natural. When you see when I hit him with a 4 like that, it just kicks their leg and nothing happens, right? As soon as I press the 1 input, they get tripped. And then they get hit by the follow-up. So it's not a matter of being close. As long as I input the 4-1, that happens, and the whole thing is guaranteed. So if they block that 4, as you can see, that's really, really bad. It's like -18, I want to say. They can launch you for blocking the 4. And if they block the whole thing, it's still -18, I believe, and it's crouching. Oops. Oh, I didn't have him set on block. Right there, forces them into crouch, but they still have the advantage. They should be able to launch you there. So it's not as good as Paul's Demo Man, which is friggin' impossible to punish because it pushes you halfway across the screen. This one you can punish coming and going. But it's a fast enough low that they can't anticipate, or they have to anticipate it. They can't see it. It's 18 frames or so. They can't see it and react to it. They have to guess you went low. And if that's the case, if they guess your move correctly, you know, the rewards are theirs. So he has a Demolition Man. It's not a super good one, but still pretty good. A generally unseeable low that results in that 38 damage plus the wake up situation. Pretty good stuff. So out of his right side, much stronger attacks. Your 4-2 into the airborne stuff. Simpler pokey advantage tools like this with the follow-ups. Bigger wall splat tools, forward 4-2. Bigger power moves like back 4, 1+2, and then a Demo Man. Great stuff out of the right options. So there's a lot to remember out of that one. So far, I mean, there's already like 10 moves you want to write down that are really good that you can use all day. And it's just a matter of the situation, whereas it's range versus punishment versus opponent's aggressive level, all of that stuff. So that's the general set of moves. He has a couple of other unique sort of moves. He has 2 inputs with 1+4. Forward 1+4 is his only power crush. He uses the shield, hits you mid, and you also get this spear for free. You can turn off guard all. We don't need that. So forward 1+4 into forward 1+2 gets you that 39 damage. The drawback is because it is a mid power crush, it has to be unsafe. It is, you guessed it, -14. But you're using it in the situation where you know you're baiting your opponent. You're pressuring up the wall. Like I was mentioned before, you're kind of poking them and you're annoying them. You can do this down 1-4 to splat them, or you can bait them into pressing their own buttons and use the power crush to splat them. Either way. Pretty good all around. It's fairly fast. You get that knockdown and the free follow-up. It's just negative on block. Back 1+4 is also negative, but also kind of interesting. This big overhead strike, where you get all kinds of follow-up options depending on how they get up. I'm not sure technically if this down back 1+2 is complete. Whoops. If this is free altogether, if they can roll, but there's a litany of options you have if they decide to roll strangely. If they try to if you delay a second and they stand back up, just hit them with that demo man, you know? There's a million ways you can go. This is such a good knockdown. Right in front of you, head first, plenty of things you can do. And that's only -11. Pretty good stuff there. It's not super fast. Both of these are 20 frame startup. The forward power crush and the back spike. Pretty solid. They're not great to like get your opponent off your back necessarily, unless you power crush, but really good for when you have a little bit of distance between you. You throw that out to try to get the advantage that way. You extend a little bit of risk and you get some pretty good rewards off of it. So that's all he has off of 1+4 inputs, 2+3 inputs. Back is the unblockable, and forward 2+3 is his rage drive. Kind of looks like that, just a rage drivey version. 1+2, he's got some interesting stuff. He uses the big 2-handed sword for most of these. Just 1+2 by itself is that we saw earlier. Got 17 frame startup and it'll wall splat. High mid. Also -14 on block. The nice thing about this is you can hold back and cancel that second hit and go back to -9. Stay safe. You can't read it. You can't see that it got blocked and then decide to cancel. You had to do one or the other. You had to have already been holding back or else it's too late. So if you have, a wall splat situation, they did something really bad or they whiffed, that's your best wall splat tool along with that one. It's just a little bit slower. It's just more damage. And you can throw that out and start canceling it to keep them honest. It is a homing move. The first high hit is homing, so you can just use that as the homing move and then keep them guessing from that point. Forward 1+2 is this spear strike, which is probably his worst move overall. It's a 16 frame startup, which is relatively quick, but on block, this is -25, maybe more. I don't even know. You could punish this thing with a rage art. It's so bad on block, it's ridiculous. The only thing this is really good for is follow-up situations like that. Your power crush or the mid option out of your roll. You use that to hit him on the ground. Otherwise, I would never use this move out in the open unless you're all the way out here on the moon and you think they're going to run into it. And if that's the case, you're so much better off doing forward 2. It has better range and is completely safe. I can't really think of a good reason to risk -25 for that stupid move. So basically forget forward 1+2 exists. You're only going to use it for those knockdowns with the follow-up. Down forward 1+2 is this big overhead swing right there. This is a screw attack, and it's the best one you want to use where possible. You have to get the super high launcher in order for this to work, but this is the screw attack that you want in addition to down 2-2. Those are your two most favorable. Down forward 1+2 is about 20 frames to start up, but it's safe. It's -9. So again, there's a real pattern with Noctis. His 2-hit mid-mid stuff that knocks you down and all that, that's all -14. He takes a risk. But a lot of his other single strike mids, the big heavy kinds, they all seem to be -9. So you can kind of live your whole life sticking to these things that are -9. You lose some of your speed. You got to live in a world of 18, 20 frame startup. If you want to do the stuff that's like 16 frames, you got to take a little bit of risk. But otherwise, down forward 1+2, if you've got the distance, safe on block, is one of your screw attacks. The other one is down back 1+2. This is his just big, I don't care launcher. You can even charge this thing up. You can hold it in, charge it like that. This is the high launcher you need to do that other screw attack. So you can basically do down back 1+2, down forward 1+2, and do your screw attack just like that. This is also about 20 frames to start up if you don't charge it. And here is -16. When I first saw this move, he did it against Kuma in the reveal video, and it immediately reminded me of Kuma's Demon Uppercut, the same one Heihachi has. They're forward, forward 2. Big, beefy, grounded hitting mid launcher that is -16, but nobody can hit you for it. Like, Heihachi is really hard to punish when he does that. Most of the cast can't touch him because of the pushback. This is pretty much the same situation. 16 is enough that only a handful of characters can hit you, and not everyone can launch you. You'd have to think about who you're facing. I would say that Noctis himself could launch you with this down forward 2. It's just got super good range, and it's only 15 frames. But if you're playing someone like Asuka, her forward 2 launcher is too slow. It won't punish. So this is a nice big launcher that you can either take a lot of risk with or no risk, depending on who you're facing. So that's it for his 1+2 attacks. Nice big damage, but unsafe. Unsafe or cancelable if you want. Out of 1+2, down forward 1+2, big slow swing. Down back 1+2 is a big slow swinging launcher. So he's got some up forward moves, starting with up forward 2. This is again about that 20 frame range to start up, 18 to 20. But this is a safe mid launcher. This is only -8 to -9 on block, and it's a natural launcher. This is essentially an orbital heal, like Brian or Lars, or even Dragunov and Steve both have up forward 2s that kind of work like this. So completely safe mid launcher. I wouldn't be surprised if this actually beats a lot of other things like Josie's Butterfly Edge. He really seems to have a tiny profile as he spins. He's almost like parallel to the ground. Whoops. So I wouldn't be surprised if this actually beats a couple of stubby mids and launches you forward 2. We'll have to find out. I don't think it's anywhere near the level of Josie's Butterfly Edge, but could be pretty good. So up forward 2, safe mid launcher. Can't complain about that. There's really no room. Up forward 2 is really good. Up forward 3 is faster at 17 frames, and it is a launcher. It's a little bit of a weird launcher, like Lars's version is, but unlike Lars, this is only -13. If they block it, he doesn't finish. All he does is that. So in fundamentals, this is more like a hop kick than it is Lars's lightning screw. It's a 17 frame hop kick that's -13 on block. It's just whenever it connects, the animation is a little unconventional. So think of this as just a slow-ass hop kick. If you're blocking something and punishing, you want to do this, down forward 2, wherever possible. But up forward 3 is an option. If you see a low coming in, you can try to crush that low using this, or using this. Either way, it's going to work out. It's up to you. Depends on what you think the situation calls for. The faster one, at 17 frames, is unsafe. The slower one, totally safe. Both mid, both get you the full combo. The other jumping move is up forward 4. This is basically just a quick homing attack. There's nothing else remarkable about it. You've seen this kick a couple times already. Down forward 1-4 is the same kick. Down forward 4-2-4, same kick. All of these are screw attacks too, and they're all homing. So this is pretty much your panic homing move, up forward 4. And then combined with the up forward 1 we saw earlier, this 14 frame counter hit, he does have an up forward attack for all 4 buttons, and they're all actually pretty good. 2 of them launch, 1 of them is a counter hit launcher, 1 of them is a homing attack. That's pretty solid stuff. So after up inputs, he's got a couple of forward inputs. Forward 4 is this thing that you're never going to use outside of a combo. Startup is really slow, like 25 frames for that. It's -14 on block. He flips away and you get to punish him for it. All this really is your combo finisher. The whole thing scales like it's a single hit, so that 50 damage turns into a lot at the end of a combo. That's pretty much all that is. Forward 4 is just to end combos with some style. Forward 3 plus 4 is when you need style outside of a combo. Boom. Not a practical move at all, especially because it's high. Seems kind of silly that that move is a high. All that really is style points. That's make you feel good about yourself. That running drop kick square in the teeth really feels good. Your opponent's going to wish they didn't get hit by that, but it's not really something you can work into your arsenal. It's way too slow. It's a high. You can't even like get it off a good wall splat. It's too slow to hit them on the wall. It really is just a catch your opponent napping, or, you know, they want to run at you with something big. Just boom, a surprise kick in the teeth. That's all it is. The real crown jewel out of his forward dash is forward 1+2. This thing might be his best overall move. About an 18-19 frame startup, but this is mid, safe on block, homing attack, and will counter hit combo. Causes a screw attack right away. You can't say enough about that. It has everything. That's one of his best moves. It reminds you most of Josie's forward 4, safe mid, screw attack launcher, blah, blah, blah. Once you get used to doing the forward inputs, and you just have this thing on demand, you can just oppress people with it that are good at sidestepping and just throw it out there. It's -9. It's not, you can't continue your offense, but you are completely safe to just let them think twice about sidestepping you again. And you get to wall splat on a natural hit too, not just a counter hit. So that, I'm pretty sure, is Noctis' best overall move. It has everything you could possibly want. So write that one down with the 10 previous best moves that we had before. So all that really is left is movement-based attacks, like his running 1+2. That's a natural launcher. It's +8 on block. It's not as good as Dragunov's overall, but it's a natural launcher instead of counter hit. It's kind of slow to start up. They can sidewalk it pretty easy. It's linear. It is +8, like most running attacks, and you get a natural combo. So it's pretty good. It's not bad. It's just, it's exploitable by an opponent with good movement. And the fact that Noctis doesn't have a running 3, you can see he just does forward 3. This is your running attack. You know, most characters have that running 3 that's like +8 on block. In Noctis' case, it's this running 1+2. So it's slower. Whoops. There it is. But it's a natural launcher. So that's kind of a nice little balance. It can be beaten, but if they don't beat it correctly, you get a whole combo out of it. So that's his only really noteworthy running move, is while running 1+2. He's got one sidestep move, which is sidestep 2. Pretty good little attack. This is 0 on block as far as I can tell. They recover crouching, but you also have to take a little bit of a step. So this is a nice overall pressure tool. If you're going to just kind of poke, and then, you know, sidestep their attacks, you hit it with this thing, and you get a nice little bit of damage and get to keep going from there. So sidestep 2, pretty good. The other movement-based attack is from the back stance. Back turn 2 is a natural launcher that's also safe. -9 mid launcher. You can do stuff like that. So that's really strong. The only problem is the only way to get back turned is by canceling those 2 kicks. So you think about it as just that's part of your mind game for those kicks. Not, oh, I want to get to back turn so I can hit you with this, like, say, Lucky Chloe does. She's trying to find every excuse possible to get back turn to do the California roll. Noctis isn't like that. He has the 2 ways to get back turned, and from there, he's got a really strong mid-launcher option. So that's all that's left is crouching stuff. He has one full crouch move, which is down forward 2. This is kind of just like a bootleg version of Dragunov's down 2. The counter hit gives you that +9 stagger, like that. Nothing's free, it's only +9, but you get more offensive opportunities to keep going from there. That's full crouch, down forward 2. So obviously you can't do it as quickly as Dragunov's. It's just a crappy version of it. The only other low that he really has that can leave you that way is a down back 3. His basic lows in general: down 2, the down back 2 from range, the down back 4 is standing, and down back 3 is the only one that leaves you crouching. So down back 3, full crouch down forward 2, you can do that way. That's one of the quick ways to set up 2 lows. One of the only ways he has that remains crouching. Or your sideways blink. You can do this as well. Blink sideways and go for that low there, because your recovery out of the blink is also crouching. So full crouch down forward 2 is pretty interesting. It's -13, like most practical lows. And the hit advantage is really good. This is like +3 on hit. So this is an interesting move to have if you want to just, you know, be ready to start ducking and throw that out. It's got good range for it too. So that's a nice complement to his low game. He's got one of every low, a standing low, you know, the ducking low, etc. The big power lows. He's got one crouching low to go with all of that. So otherwise, if you're in crouching, your while standing moves, we basically went over all of them because they're all good as punishers. 4 is 11 frames. 1-2 is 13 frames and is also minus 13 itself. It's pretty good damage. Nice, good hitboxes. This will also be what you use to break floors during combos. So while standing 1-2, very strong. While standing 2-2, even stronger because it's a natural launcher. And it is minus 14. It's not great, but it's also not the worst you're going to see either. So out of while standing, Noctis is very strong comparatively. It's just that his strongest, fastest things are all the ones that are kind of unsafe. If you want to play a safer game, you kind of got to back off a little bit and use your range tools. But otherwise, he's got lots of damage and lots of potential with a little bit of punishment involved. So just to recap a couple of other elements, his homing moves that you're going to need are that up forward 4. Pretty quick. I mean, that'll be your muscle memory to stop him from sidestepping until you develop the sense to do forward 1+2, which is the mid homing move. His other homing is this 1+2, 2 hits. You don't want to use that just to deter sidestepping because they can block it, but you can hold back to cancel and use it that way. And if you are going to use it that way, you're better off with just up forward 4, to be honest. So think about it as the high homing move, up forward 4. And until you get used to it, forward 1+2 is the best homing move. That's the only one you really need. So he does have 3 homing moves, even though this one outclasses the rest of them by a lot. You just have to get used to doing a forward with 2 buttons on demand. And his screw attacks, there's a ton of screw attacks. We mentioned this up forward 4 is one of them, as well as all of his variations. Down forward 1-4 and down forward 4-2-4. It's all the same kick. They're all screw attacks. You can do it out of 2-2 forward 2. We mentioned earlier when the third hit is mid. That's a screw attack. 1-2 1+2 is a screw attack for no reason at all. You're never going to use this. It's not really good for anything. You wouldn't want to use it as a screw attack, but you can. Some other things. Forward 4-2, your 16 frame wall splat. That's a screw attack. Your while standing 2-2. If it's not the launcher itself, is also a screw attack, say off of the up forward 3. You do while standing 2-2 is your screw attack for that one. The airborne 2-2-2 also works. The easy mode combo for that. Jumping 2-2-2 is a screw attack. But the ones that you're really, and forward 1+2, the homing move, is a screw attack out in the open as well. But the ones you're really concerned with most are down 2-2 and forward or down forward 1+2. They all have their uses, and you want to use down forward 1+2 where possible, but the only places you can really squeeze that in are the big launcher off of down back 1+2. You do it right there, or say the counter hit off of up forward 1. Oops, I missed. I missed it again. That's what I mentioned earlier about up forward 1. Is it does kind of hit them off to the side a little bit. Can be a little picky. There it is. That screw attack. That's the one you want to use because it's more damage and in a single hit, but it's not as practical. You can only really use it in those 2 situations. Otherwise, the next best one you want to use is down 2-2. And this is the one that you have to use off of up forward 2, for example. Because that way, because your recovery is weird, or your back turn launcher. You do the same thing there, down 2-2. And then the next most favorable screw attack, if you're going to do it at the end of a combo, would be this one. 1+2. You start the combo, if you want to do that one if you can, this one if you have to, and if you do the screw attack later in the combo, you just do 1+2. So he's got 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 12 screw attacks to pick from. You really only focus on 3 of them. Down forward 1+2, down 2-2, or just 1+2. Power Crush, we mentioned he only has the one. Forward 1+2 or 1+4. That shield attack is his only Power Crush move. You get that spear for free. But that's it. There's really nothing else there. He's also got a parry. Back plus either throw buttons are a parry. It's active at about 3 frames, so it's one of the faster parries. Works on pretty much everything you see, mid or high. Works on swords. A lot of Noctis' sword attacks can't be parried by conventional means. This one generally does. That parries just about everything. I don't know if it's as good as Geese's in terms of parrying all that stuff. It's not going to parry a rage art, but any general mid or high attack, back plus either throw, is a universal parry. So that's pretty awesome to have. You know, you can't complain about that. That's a really good tool to round it out. So he doesn't really have a ton of gimmicks. There's very few stances. There's the roll stance and like the airborne stance, if you want to call it that. He's got a basic power crush move, which is in the middle of the road. It's pretty good, but not great. He's got couple homing moves, one really superior homing move. He's got a ton of screw attacks. So, to summarize everything up, Noctis has a little bit of everything. He's very flexible. I think he's going to be really easy to pick up for beginners. He's got conventional high-mid mix-ups to force him into ducking, to force him into pressing buttons, but he doesn't have anything that's really like cheap or free. There's no like built-in lows you get to just abuse. His most abusable things that people are going to say they're unfair at first is that forward 2, hitting him from downtown and being safe, or this down back 2 with that tremendous range and being able to combo from that. Those are his two like most disrespectful things. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. You learn to use his tools both in close range and in long range, figure out where you're most comfortable playing, and then develop the sense of how to transition. Do you want to play defensive and stay back? You know what your certain tools are, your back 4 kick or your forward 2, etc. If you want to stay in close, you have your down forward 1, your sidestep 2, stuff like that. So it's really about being comfortable with the character and it's molding to your play style, which I really think this character is going to be good at. He's not locked into doing this, or that. You can play him however you want to play him, which is also really good for beginners. They want to mash buttons, he's got good button mashing tools. They want to just do nothing, he's got good punishers. So I think he's a very flexible, pretty strong character. His range is a little bit extreme in some cases, but the trade-off in most of those cases is being negative on block. He's got a lot of really good damaging like mid knockdown strings. Some of them are pretty bad on block. So the trade-off in him using his best assets is a lot of that stuff is minus 14. But you will find there's a lot of really good things that are safe. There's a lot of stuff hidden in there that's only minus 9. So once you start to get used to those, if you want to play like a mid-range game and stick to 20 frame attacks, you could be really safe all day. If you want to get in close and you want to do some real damage, you have to start taking some risks. So figure it all out, learn how you want to play, learn what's most comfortable, and you'll find out that Noctis can play however you want him to play, which is a really cool feature. You can kind of just pick your game plan and be satisfied with his character. You're not going to find out later that, oh, he doesn't do what I want him to do. He's very flexible.